Welcome to Noble, a network of owners, business leaders, and entrepreneurs. Here, we focus on the 5 stages of business: launching an idea, establishing a business, hiring employees, creating leaders, and then expanding your impact. We hope you enjoy today's session.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We are Noble Pittsburgh, and this is the second speaker series. And the Noble is a network of business leaders and entrepreneurs. Each month we host a series about finance, strategies, marketing, business, clarity, innovation, and etc. Noble helps entrepreneurs navigate through the next steps in connecting with the right people and resources to grow beyond whatever is holding them back. Whether you are just looking to make your dreams a reality, or if you are already in business, we at Noble are excited about all the resources offered to you through our events. Noble strives to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses, develop leadership, and release it to the point of abundance that their business can have a godly kingdom impact. So with no further ado, with no other delays, I would like to welcome Dr. Camille Smith to the table. Hello.
Hello, Doug. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. How you doing?
A little nervous. I love being in front of a camera, but yeah.
Well, before we get moving on, I'm going to read your bio. Okay. And it is very impressive. I've known you for quite some time, but the things that I'm reading here, just wow, it blows my mind. So it says, Dr. Camille Clarke-Smith, Camille Clarke LLC, a dedicated health and wellness professional specializing as a personal trainer, wellness coach, and stretch therapist at Camille Clarke LLC. She is also the founder and executive director of Transforming the Health of African American Women, THAW, a nonprofit organization focused on improving the health and quality of life for African American women through innovative wellness practices. In her role as a program director at UPMC Health Plan, Dr. Clarke-Smith leads innovative programs such as UPMC for Life Medicare Faith and Wellness Program. Her extensive education background includes a BS in psychology, an MS in exercise science, education in health and physical activity, and she is currently pursuing an MSW. Now, what is the MSW?
Master's in Social Work.
Wow. This comprehensive expertise allows her to emphasize the interconnectedness of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health in her work. Her personal experiences including a significant weight loss journey, have deepened her commitment to health and wellness. She integrates her faith-based perspective into her practice, viewing her body as a temple and focusing on Jesus to guide her holistic health.
Did you get it?
I love that. That is so impressive. Beyond her professional achievement, Dr. Smith is an active worship leader, continually enhancing her skills. Inspired by Ken Blanchard, Lead Like Jesus. She practices servant leadership to foster community and unconditional love. Her journey of professional growth and self-awareness informs her compassionate approach to her work and life. That is just amazing. So I want to ask you a few questions, and for us to get a little bit more detail of your life and your journey, to become a little bit more intimate in the process of what brought you here to the United States. How did that transpire?
So I am originally from Kingston, Jamaica. My mom moved here when I was 7 years old. Not sure why she moved here, probably for a better life and greater opportunities. So I've been here since I was 7, but I went back to Jamaica. She didn't like where I was going. I moved to Brooklyn, New York to begin with, and the streets were getting a hold of me. So she sent me back to Jamaica to stay with my aunts and to go to boarding school when I was 13. And then I came back to America when I was 16, 17, and then she put me in private school because she was like, no, public school is not it in New York, in Brooklyn, New York. But stayed there, had played college basketball. But while I came here, one of the things I realized is, not realized, but what I went through was obesity. So from the age of about 7 to about 13, I saw myself go from a thin child to about 265 pounds by the time I went back to Jamaica. So it was mostly because I was, my mom was a single mom. I was home a lot. And then so emotional eating is what basically became my friend, and the way that I dealt with things. But when I went back to Jamaica, I found the love of basketball. And playing basketball got me physically active. So when I came back to America at the age of 16, I started playing basketball and volleyball just to stay, out of the streets and out of trouble. And then since then, I've loved fitness and have been pushing wellness. I initially wanted to be a doctor when I was a child, but I decided I wanted to be on the side of prevention rather than treatment and focus on pushing people to holistic wellness, which is for me mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual.
Wow, incredible. So you have a diverse family and a story of coming to America. What led you to get into the entrepreneurship? Were you always striving to do that as a young girl?
I wouldn't say I was striving, but when I look back at my life, there was a lot of things that I did as an entrepreneur as a kid. So one of the things that I jokingly, as I said before, I was obese, and my mom had somebody picking me up from school. It was like a local bus driver. So I would be the first one at school. So I would take my lunch money and buy all the candy. So I love candy. And then realized, back then it was like 10 cents a candy and at $5. So I'd buy enough. And when I got to school, I couldn't eat all the 200 pieces of candy. So people would come to me and buy them for me. So I'd actually double or triple the prices. So by the end of the week, I'll have way more money than I had. So that was my first thought. That was my first experience in entrepreneurship. And then as a high school student, one of the things we have to do to graduate, and this is not good, do not do this because this is cheating, but nobody wanted to do their senior paper. So I got into writing everybody's senior paper. So the first person came to, I'll pay you $50, Camille. No, and then it went up to $100. By the time I graduated, I had like about $3,000, which made me prepared for college, and I bought all my colleges. So that's where it started out, and I knew that hustle, So I think that's when I got into my adult life. So what actually spurred me into building Camille Clarke LLC, which was back in the days called Camille's Fitness, was the fact that I couldn't find a job when I graduated college. So I was working as a fitness trainer at Club Julian, but that wasn't enough to strive. So I tried to get a job. I tried with a bachelor's of psychology, but I could not get into WIPIC or UPMC or anything like that. So somebody heard my journey of weight loss and was like, okay, how can you help me? And I was like, oh, you want to pay me for that? Well, okay, I guess I'll do that. So that spurred off, and then I got more clients and decided to get certified in fitness, and there I am. So.
Okay, so with some of your clients, the clients that you do have, and you took them through the process and the pace, what were their reactions? What were their feelings of them seeing improvement in their health? How did they share that?
So many people come to me because they're struggling. A lot of times they've tried it before and it's not working. And it's truly what people need is somebody keeping them accountable. Because everybody knows what to do, but they want to eat at night or not realizing I'm an emotional eater, so I'm nighttime eating. So me telling them that I'm going to be taking their numbers every week and create an assessment. The key thing for me is when people come in, I ask them, what is your goal? And this is just usual for anybody, right? What is your goal? If you know what your goal is, then you basically strive. And then we create a plan around that. I have to know a little bit more about where your body is right now, where your health is right now, and where is it that you want to go. Then after that, then we talk about a plan, and it's a conversation. So most of my clients I see one-on-one, maybe 2 to 3 times a week.
Now, how does it know if I'm on? It sees you. This is you right here. Okay.
Sorry, just here getting interrupted. So yeah. So the thing with this is a conversation. One of my clients says, "You're not just my trainer. You're which is the reason why I went back and got my master's in social work. You're my therapist, because we talk about what are the struggles. What is it? A lot of it is stress. A lot of my clients are working multiple jobs or they have multiple kids and just can't put themselves first at that point in time. So they have a lot on their plate, and learning how to, and then coming to me and just laying that down most of the times is what gives them, oh, okay, I can actually do this.
Tell her how to. I haven't seen her in so long.
Susie, would you be able to mute the mics?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And then, so another thing is I talk about God a lot. I believe God, right now in Bible study, we're talking about purpose, but I believe that we're all here for a purpose. And sometimes when they come to me, it's that they, they're mothers, they're businesswomen, businessmen, and they're sometimes just lost in the build up, just doing things, and they're not able to be, and just being with me, just to hear how much I talk about, well, Jesus is going to be there for you. Have you gone to church? Have you done these different things? And they love that. So that's why I say I carry a holistic view. I'm not just a personal trainer just going to tell you how many reps you do, but I'm also going to work on your emotions and your mentality, mental, as well as your spiritual, making sure that you're connected, because I believe all of that comes together to get to the goals that you want, whether it's physical or anything. I've also helped people train to become bodybuilders and figure competitors, because I've been a bodybuilder and figure competitor. So one of the best things I think for me is because I've been there. There's a lot of people who think, these skinny people out here, I know what it's like to emotionally eat. I know what it's like to be 265 pounds. I'm a Black woman. I know what it's like to be, dealing with an intersectionality of being Black and female at the same time, and an immigrant and not being accepted. So understanding that, I believe, allows other people to see that in me and want to inspire to be like that.
Beautiful, beautiful. So along with that, how did you come about knowing Jesus, following the path, staying with it, and seeing yourself as a change for kingdom business to inspire people? So how did that journey start?
Well, started with my mother. Every Sunday I was at church. I remember I played basketball, and she would tell me, "You are not playing any games on a Sunday. I don't care what time is in missing church." So that was the foundation. My grandmother was a part of church. All my uncles and aunts, they're a part of church. Some of them are pastors. So it was instilled with me as a child. But I would say that in my 20s, I did become the prodigal daughter. I did leave the church thinking, being angry at God of where my life was. But then I came right back. When I came back, it was a friend who said, "Come back to church." And I was at Mount Ara at the time. But my biggest growth has happened at Destiny International Ministries. My husband is here, Pastor Michael Smith, who he really, for how much I believe in purpose and destiny, he preaches that word. So my biggest growth actually has been in the last 10 years in staying connected with God.
Wonderful. And speaking of your husband, he is a dynamite inspiration. He is a dynamic speaker, and he knows the word.
Yes.
And so he brings that word forth that it connects with you at some part of your life that encourages and changes. I just say, Pastor Mike is my cat. Beautiful, beautiful couple here. So moving on, now, do you have any favorite Bible quotes that you have posted around your home or in your studio, or when you with your clients, or you have in your mind? What would some of those be?
I have multiple. The first, do not be conformed, but be renewed by your mind, Corinthians. But the two I never forget. The first time I heard this one, Jeremiah 1:5. Actually, Jeremiah 12:5. It was if running with man has got you something, how can you run with horses? And that, when I got that, was my first time at UPMC, and I was building a whole new program called the Medicare Faith and Wellness Program, which was then Medicare Healthy Church Challenge, something totally different. And I was frustrated, and I went downstairs and I called my husband in tears because everything had just fallen apart. And he quoted that scripture to me, and I was like, wow, all right, if I can't do this now, how am I going to do anything in the future that I want to do? So that Jeremiah 12:5 is also Jeremiah 1:5, which is, before I knew you, I formed you in the womb. So that one, so God already knows my future. He already knows what he prepared me for. And it's just knowing that is enough to give me the encouragement and the want to go and desire to do the things that I'm fearful of doing.
So you overcome those fears.
Yep, just the scripture is amazing.
Amen.
Yeah. Especially Jeremiah. I love Jeremiah because he's a scaredy cat, right? I feel like I'm Jeremiah, so I'm a scaredy cat to myself.
So out of there's many people in the world, especially faith-based, who has a difficult time finding their purpose and not understanding their purpose. How did you come across your purpose, and then could you define that process and give us a clear view of your purpose? I mean, you're moving in your purpose. I feel that will be even expanded even further than what you're seeing now.
I would have to say God. I would say that I was just roaming through life, just doing things. I fell into fitness because it was my own journey. So, like I said, someone came up to me and said, I heard your journey. I wanted to be a doctor, right? So that was inside of me already. And I am a doctorate of the education, but I knew I wanted to heal and fix. And I thought the only way was through being a doctor, but realized that now as a personal trainer, I probably do better than most doctors because I'm preventing people from getting even worse of chronic conditions and different things. Weight loss is not just weight loss. A lot of my clients have cancer and basically keeping their body physical. And what we realize is now is the AHN and then UPMC has this exercise oncology program, realizing that physical activity is very important with recovering from cancer, not just preventing cancer. But for me, I remember once again meeting my husband and saying, I don't know where my purpose is. He was like, you're already in it. What are you talking about? You don't know what your purpose is. Look at what you love to do. And him reminding me, and every day I actually have to be reminded about that. We're actually reading in Bible study, Miles Monroe's The Pursuit of Purpose, I believe it's called. And I have to reread it again to realize, wow, God has always had me in my purpose. Wellness is my purpose, whether I knew it or not. It's something easy to me. It's something that I just spit out. You know, my husband says that you look at somebody and you can tell that their shoulders are lopsided and this is up, and you're like, what is the stress going on in their life? And that's truly where I feel more comfortable. And then it has pushed me in many ways. I started Camille Clarke LLC, Camille's Fitness back then. Then now I have THAW, Transform the Health of African American Women, because Camille Clarke LLC, it's expensive to meet me one-on-one. So not a lot of people who look like me can afford those one-on-one services. So I created a nonprofit organization to allow people to be able to have those services. But also at UPMC, I never thought that at UPMC they would allow me to build a program where I get to bring faith and wellness together, which just shows my passion for what I do, which is just easy for me. So, yeah, God has just been flowing. Even when I didn't know it, He was right by my side telling me where to go and flowing me in the right areas. So
Great. So someone who thinks they don't know their purpose can look back at themselves and what they love to do or what they are often doing. That could be their purpose to move forward.
I agree. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So how did you form all the businesses that you do have? What were the process? What were the struggles? What did you overcome? What did you realize that this isn't working? Let me pivot and do this here.
So let me just say I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm 40 right now, just turned 40 in April, and I probably started being a personal trainer around 21, 22. Didn't know you had to pay taxes, right, on the money coming in, right? So I had to deal with a lot of IRS issues at the beginning, but every mistake was a lesson for me to learn. So when I made that mistake, I figured out how can I fix the problem. I didn't let it deter me or anything like that, but how can I prevent this from in the future? So I had great clients who also I listened to their advice. A lot of my clients were business people. So I was like, how did you do this? I asked questions. I might not have taken a class or anything like that, but those who were already doing it, I reached out and I asked them, how can I get this done? Why am I in this situation? And a lot of times they helped me out of the situation. I remember one time I owed like $17,000 or more to the IRS. I'm like, how did I get here? So he actually got me a tax attorney to be able to get that lower. Now and got me my LLC. At the time I'd gone Inc., which is the reason why it's not Camille's Fitness. And when you go incorporate, I didn't know this, you're double taxing yourself. And he said, don't double tax yourself. Why don't you do LLC where you can be sole proprietorship? So that was also a learning lesson that got me in a bind and just learning to pivot. So one of the things is that you need resiliency when you're doing entrepreneurship and not giving up just because the first time, but going back to the table and like, how can I, what mistake did I make? How could I prevent myself making that mistake? What do I need to put in to prevent that mistake? And then go from there.
Okay.
So, yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah. You have several businesses that are thriving. You know, when I first met you, that came to Destiny, and you got us into the fitness and everything and working out. And so you are a chef too.
A chef? Oh, I would not say a chef.
Well, I'm looking at all the meal prep and the plans that you do now. Do you trial and error, or these from your home, from Jamaica? Some of the things that you prepare.
I wouldn't say Jamaica. I know some stuff about spices, so like curry chicken. I know the best benefits of coriander and cumin, that it can help with inflammation, and as well as I can't even think about the right one. what's the red one that helps with heart? And,
Cayenne.
pepper, but there's another one that I use. But truly, I used to bodybuild, and then you have to be very strict on the diet, especially if you're trying to build muscles, mostly protein. And you can't just eat protein all day long, and you can't put any salt in your food, and you can't be flavorful. But I also wanted my clients to be able to eat it, but their palate was a little bit different than mine at that time because they're still eating fast foods or just food that's drenched with a lot of sauce and a lot of sauce that's very fattening and milky. So for me to continue having food, and then my husband, I had to start cooking for my husband, and he would just look at it like, I'm not going to eat that. So it's more like trial and error and having his palate, which is different than mine. And if he liked it, I knew it was going to be good. So it's learning lessons once again. If I saw it in the fridge for 3 days straight and it wasn't touched, then I knew this wasn't one that was going to work. If I saw it was done by Tuesday, then I knew that was the best. But it's all a learning lesson. I did read a lot about, different kinds of seasonings. How can you, one thing I did pick up from Jamaica is marinating your food. And not a lot of people in America would spend 6 hours, 8 hours, or that I've realized is, and then just put salt and season and just Scotch bonnet peppers and all those different things, onions, and instead we'll just throw the salt on top of it, and then when it's cooked, then throw the salt on top of it again, which then leads to hypertension. But if you let the food marinate for a night, all of that seasoning gets inside of all of the fruit, mostly your proteins, your meats and things like that. So yeah, and learning how to let things brew and not put it on a high fire. And my husband will still say that you can keep things on a high fire, but you need a low heat because half the time when you pick the heat too high, you lose all the nutrition out of it. So you need to slow cook things to really get it to seep in those seasons, so you won't have to put that much salt on it.
Okay, and knowing your seasonings or spices and the different vegetables and everything that you cook with, you should know the benefits of those,
right? Because
it will add to your health and your wellness and your rest. Wow, wonderful.
And also how it makes me feel, right? One of the things, if I felt bloated, like, why am I feeling bloated? Then I'll go back over and then realize, okay, I have some people don't do well with Brussels sprouts and broccoli because it's a cruciferous vegetable and sometimes it has sulfur. And it's sometimes the way that we cook those things is a problem. So then I'll research and say, why am I feeling bloated? And then I'll realize, okay, you probably cooked your broccoli too long or not long enough, and I'll make the changes into it. Other things like the type of brand that I might be eating, not realizing I have IBS or irritable bowel syndrome that people don't realize, that those can be the reasons why you're not losing the weight because your body's so busy trying to fight or just to digest that food that is not there burning calories that you want. So learning those different things. So I always say I am my own learning lesson, like what I've learned from my own experience, I then try to research and then educate others, hoping that they don't have to go into the same path as me.
Okay. So what is your business vision? What is your vision overall for your businesses?
Just to have an impact on people's lives. To my mission is to improve the health of, everywhere I go, is just improving the health of people that I engage with. So in Camille Clarke LLC is to improve the health. So I have a statement called mental fitness, physical wellness, individual success. And that's what I believe. I want everybody to feel the best that they can feel at all times. I want everybody to love their body at all times. Some people can you can be thinner, you can be wider, you can have thick hips, but I want you to love your body, because if you love your body, then you're going to treat your temple. I believe this body is our temple so that we can do what God wants us to do. So that's all I want. My vision is that everybody loves and treats their body as a temple to continue serving the Lord.
So my next question is, before you answer this, what stands out about your business? So I'm listening to you and your passion, and what stands out to me about your business is your love for people in that journey and helping them to reach that goal. So that's what stands out to me about your business. What stands out to you about your business, and what do you enjoy most about it?
I would have to say how much I put God into my business. A lot of people know that I'm a first lady, but also know that I really love God. So I've been blessed that my clients who come my way, they also love God, and they can say that is truly what I love about. Nobody else is doing what you're doing. Nobody else I can talk, you bring in a scripture in our word or anything like that. So I would have to say that. But to love God is to love the people, right? And because that's what you're supposed to do, serve the people. So I would have to say it's just my love of God and how much I integrate that into my work. And so yeah, that's what I think is different. So yeah.
Okay. So have you ever had a client that resisted your faith as you trained them and take them through?
Resisted my faith. No, I do have some clients who would consider themselves atheists. But for me, I don't necessarily go out and say God right. all the time. You have to know that. But it's just the way that I carry myself. It's the fact that I believe, like you said, in helping others, and that is important. So they see that within me. So if I know that they are a little bit reservant, I'm not going to go in there and say, okay, read Jeremiah 1-5 right. or do right. something like that. But I don't believe that you have to read the scripture to somebody for them to still see that God is inside of you. So no, I haven't had anybody leave and say that, oh, I don't like the way that you train. Actually, I wish people would jump off a couple of times. So I have lifetime clients, just makes no room for other people. But I'm blessed. So yeah, I can't say that.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So what new is on the horizon for you?
New. I'm hoping nothing new. Actually, so if anything, just expanding what I do. So I have Camille Clarke LLC, where I train clients one-on-one. In THAW, I created multiple programs. So underneath THAW, we have Rise Book Club, which starts with reading to inspire us to elevate, which is the mental part of things. We come together, and that continues to expand. We do retreats together. We do different. We have a monthly bi-monthly discussion. Also on the THAW, we have something called Art and Soul, which was Art of Jazz, which Elder Doug has been a part of, which just brings local artists together in one room at the end of the year so they can showcase the art while listening to music being played live. So hoping to expand that. We used to be at the Wallace Tap Room, and now we're in Edgewood Country Club. So the fact that location is a focus. The next thing I created was BOY, which stands for Boxing Yoga Exhale. I did a little boxing, and boxing, get rid of your anger, your stress, get that rage out on my hands or on a punching bag. And then we do some yoga just to calm the mind down and just get back in. You just tense up your body and really get back in, because yoga just means uniting the mind, soul, and spirit. Mind, body, soul, and spirit. So we do that yoga so we can exhale and say bye to our stress. So that's that. To continue seeing that grow, we're now going into the community. We're now working with the Parkinson's Foundation. We're also working with Sojourner House of Moms with the recovering addicts. So just seeing those programs expand. And at UPMC, I started and lead the program called Medicare Faith and Wellness Program. What that does is engages faith-based organizations, and they register their Medicare members to be on an 8-week wellness challenge, which actually the first year we did that, it was done here at Covenant. And thanks to Bishop Garlington that allowed us to use his location. But that spurred everything off. So I'm excited about that. But we started out in 13 churches, and now we have 55 churches that have participated in this program. So just watching it. Thank you. So just watching those things grow. Like I said, masters in social work, I'm pursuing that because everybody said you're already doing social work. You might as well just finish that and just create this more holistic kind of thing and get more grants with that, and continue having an impact on African-American women. I want to see, if you've seen the study in 2019, that Pittsburgh Black women are the worst in all states. So seeing if I can change that a little bit for our community.
No, you're doing an amazing job. I see your posts on Facebook, and the women are having a wonderful time. They're laughing. They get a chance to exercise. They get a chance to build upon themselves. And then we just did a retreat where the women are just relaxing.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I saw that. So what do you feel are the most important traits that someone would need starting a business?
I would have to say resiliency. That, when you start something, you might fail, and not giving up. That is the biggest thing I think you can have. Passion. You have to be passionate for what you want. If you're not passionate, then when something falls and an obstacle's there, you're going to give up. The next I would say is vision. You have to have a vision. A lot of times people just create things and not sure what their vision is. And when you create that vision, you have to make sure you go back every now and again and check on that vision, because sometimes with building things, you lose the reason why you started building, and you need to come back and just reflect, pause and reflect, so you can be reminded of why is it that I wanted to do what I wanted to do in the first place. So I think those three are the biggest, but resiliency is the number one. So you're ready for whatever obstacles, passion, and a vision. And financial literacy. A little bit of financial literacy, like I said, I learned the hard way about taxes. You got to make sure you take 30% out of that, put it on the side before you spend it. So you only spend 70% and you work around that. But if you're going to spend all of it, then you're going to be looking at the end in April and be like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know. Or you're just going to avoid the whole thing. So I would have to say a little bit of financial literacy as well.
Okay. what advice would you give a young entrepreneur starting out today to rush into something or to be mindful and research and do what they need to do? What advice would you give them? Even the young ones and even the adults just starting out with business.
I believe that do both.
Mm-hmm.
There's a short-term and a long-term goal. Like, you know, if you want to get started in something, go ahead and get started. But at the same time, do your research so you can continue molding it. Only because that's what I did. When the lady asked me, can you train me? I didn't tell her, okay, let me wait until I get my certification or anything like that. I went right into training her. But in the process, I was working on that long-term goal that if this is what I'm going to do, how can I build this so that it's my future or what I'm going to do for a living? So yeah, don't wait. Find some way. Sometimes people don't necessarily have to build the business. You can go work for somebody else in that field, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to, you know, open up a transitional living home or something like that, you can work for somebody else who's doing transitional living, learn from that. And then I believe real life experience is the best way to learn anything anyway. And then at the same time, you continue building and researching how can I do and do the same thing. So it's not necessarily you have to do the entrepreneurship right now, but you can find somewhere whether you do it directly or you go work for somebody else, but at the same time, you want to do the research and due diligence.
Okay. I'm going off script and I have this question for you.
Okay.
And it pertains to husband and wife in business. How did Pastor Mike influence you, inspire you, correct you into where you are now as the leader of his home, as your husband, and as a man of God? How did that all play into the Dr. Camille Smith that we see today?
Multiple ways. He was encouraging in some ways. He said, you know your purpose and your destiny, and he shared that. But he also didn't always see the vision, and he will easily tell you, I'm not supposed to see your vision. You know, you can come to me and like he actually would think negative about it. Like, why are you doing that? But those were the questions I needed. If he's asking me why, it made me ask myself, why is it I'm doing this? So that I can go back and answer that question. So it's whys, and I don't see that thing. It made me want to prove myself right. So even the discouragements were also positive for me. Mm-hmm. Now, when he sees me working hard at it, he's like, wow, I'm gonna definitely buy into this. So he's been a big supporter. He's been a big sponsor, but his word, like I said, he's preached about Destiny International Ministries, that he is about helping people to find their purpose in God so they can fulfill their purpose in God. And I believe God brought us together because that is my goal in the fitness way, but he believes that in the spiritual way. And he covers me in that kind of way. There's, like I said, when I was crying my eyes out and called him about this, he gave me a passage that would encourage me. Other things, so he helps me out financially, he helps me out with a good biblical word. He occasionally throws discouraging words that makes me want to uplift. And we're a great team. You know, it's not always great. It's not he will tell probably some days that he can't stand me. And some days I can tell him that I can't stand him. But I think we both have this vision where we want to help people so they can find their own purpose and live out their full potential. So that together just brings us together. I believe that a woman is here as a helpmate. So any way that I can help improve his ministry, I know would automatically flow into improving my ministry. So I look at him as my king. So yeah.
No, I refer to you guys as the power couple. Always there when you guys got married. So yeah, that's the power couple right there.
Thank you.
So that's the extent of my questions for you. Now we're going to hand it off to the audience and see if they have any questions that they want to ask you.
Okay, sure.
Anyone? Questions? Don't be shy.
So I'll start,
Okay.
and I'm not sure that you can actually hear me. But what was the hardest thing in this entrepreneurial journey that you had to face so far?
Hardest thing, let's see. So in every business, you need people, you need customers, right? So when you're starting out, you're wondering whether or not you're going to find customers. And one of the things I do not like to do is public speak. You're not going to, I might throw things on social media, but I don't like to market. Marketing is really difficult for me and using my own story. But the hardest thing is when you have bills and you have no clients, and you're wondering whether you're going to have any clients come in and how to get those clients bringing in. So the hardest thing I would have to say is belief in myself, truly, is the belief in myself that it will be okay. And then when I realized I'm not believing in me, I'm believing in God. So I haven't really, and then taxes. The hardest thing was the taxes part. Realizing I made a big mistake and having to have paid this big lump sum of money, and how to put that together. But I have to say that it hasn't been that hard. It really hasn't been as hard as I make it out to be in my own mind. I've been very blessed and lucky for it not to be difficult. It just keeps growing without me realizing it.
Amen. Anyone else? Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Then we'll come to you.
My question is, what do you tell cancer patients to help them to be healthier than they are now?
So the first thing is watch your sugars. Cancer eats off of sugars, and it depends on what kind of cancer too, right? So the first thing I ask people to do is to work on your diet. The next thing is positive mental thoughts. My best friend right now, who's actually a client of mine, she has cancer, and she would credit me that, one of the first things her doctor told her the first time, which was 14 years ago, and her cancer came back 2 years ago, so she was clear for 12 years, was that she needed to get physically active. She loves her sugar as well, so that was one of the things that I really have to push off, but you need to get active. So the body, sometimes, the stress that you're dealing with needs some way to be burned. You want to lift, not just run and walk or anything like that. You actually have to pick up some weights and build some muscle so the body can feed off of that. So I would tell you to watch your diet, positive mental attitude as well, because if you're discouraged while you're going through cancer, you're only going to just bring it back down. That's why I have mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. It all applies. But watching your diet, limited amount of sugar. Fat is not a bad thing. Actually, some cancer like breast cancer, prostate cancer, those kind of cancers, cholesterol is most important. A lot of us don't realize when we rip the fat out, we rip the good fats out. So I also say make sure to get your omega-3s. So omega-6s and omega-3s, a lot of us have high omega-6s, which comes from grains, and it's because our animals are eating grains and we're doing grain-fed stuff rather than grass-fed. So our body's really pro-inflammatory, which is where cancer can grow, and that's why we need the omega-3s to balance things back out. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatories. So that balance in itself would help out. So I would say if you're not already dealing with blood thinners or hypertension, so omega-3s, if you can't do omega-3s, then you can do whole eggs, make sure it's ranged, free range, not the one just anything, because what our animals eat, we will eat too if you're eating animal protein. The next thing, so those are the three. Watch your sugar, limit the amount of sugar, no flour or anything like that. Watch the bread. Fruits are okay, but you also still want to stay on a certain numbers for the fruit, because if you're already dealing with diabetes or insulin issues, that can still spike it up. So your diet, do some physical activity, and throw some omega-3, positive mental attitude, and throw some omega-3s in your diet, if you can. And omega-3s, if you don't know, come from salmon. You can eat some fish if you want. If you're not vegetarian, you're doing fish, you can do fish as well.
You mentioned omega-6.
Omega-6s, you want to lower that because most of us are on a 20-to-1 ratio. Omega-6s is what we want to, those are pro-inflammatories, and don't get it out, but we should be on a 1-to-1 ratio, but most Americans are on a 20-to-1 ratio, omega-6 to omega-3. So omega-6s are grains and things like that, and most of us eat a high carb diet. So we want to limit that a little bit. So don't want to eat much omega-6. If anything, for women though, you might want to get some omega-9s in because that helps with your hormones.
Okay. You had a question?
Yes. Good morning, and I apologize for being late. That brings my question balance, because how do you balance? And I'll just share a little bit. I am like an entrepreneur, but I do work full time. And then I'm glad somebody had the cancer question, because we have a relative, which was my mom, who is going through the process. We believe she's healed, but she's on immunotherapy right now. But she was diagnosed with lung cancer last year. So our family had a big adjustment last year. And so how do you balance that? Of course, I'm not married, so I'm thankful, because I wouldn't know what to do, but how do you balance that? Because as a woman and as in our culture, we're so many things to so many different people, but sometimes we need a break, and we just need to be in the presence of God. Plus, we have to be good stewards over our home, our finances, our work, and that has a whole different, situation, as well as being as an entrepreneur. So where's that balance? What can we do? But I do apologize because I was late, so I wanted to hear some more, because when I heard holistic and wellness, I said, that's exactly where I need to be.
It's funny you mentioned Black women. So my dissertation was actually the strong Black woman, stress and obesity amongst African American women who attend church. And the thing is, the strong Black woman is there's 5 things, right, that they're doing. They are, and I can't remember that they take on too much. They put themselves last. And 3 I can't remember, but you mentioned a lot of it. But for me, like I said, I run a business. I also work a 9 to 5 at UPMC, and I do a nonprofit, and I have to be the first lady of the church. But the balance is making sure to put yourself first. You have to say no to certain things and learning to delegate. So there's some things that your friends and families can help out with if you're trying to grow. They love your passion, right? And that's the reason why they're going to be behind you, and figuring out how to use those. I would say that for a while, I didn't have that balance. And occasionally I have to come back and check, Camille, your balance is not there. You didn't do this, you didn't do your prayer work. But I would say the first thing you have to do is do some prayer, meditation, get up in the morning. That is the first thing, because that and breath work. So the meditation, and I call that prayer because when I'm in prayer, I'm not just asking, I'm listening as well. And that opportunity to listen now gets me to breathe and open up and take some deep breaths. And truly, when that happens, there's neuroscientists will say that gets your mind thinking a little bit different. Some of us are used to what we've seen our parents and family members do, and sometimes we need to get out of that core belief that we have to keep doing. Sometimes the best thing you can do is not do anything. So I would say the first thing to do in the morning is make time for yourself, whether it's 10 or 15 minutes to breathe, to pray, and to listen to God. My work is now I journal. The way that I start my morning out is I get up at 4 a.m. and I believe in still getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And you're like, how you do that? I'm like, good night, babe. I'm going to bed at 8:30, right? So I get about 7 hours of sleep. But I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is I journal. But my journal is a prayer to God. But it's, how I'm feeling. I go about mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then I listen. I then take time to do my breath work, where I breathe in for 4 counts and exhale for 4 counts and take that higher 8 counts. And then I can feel how my body's feeling that day, where my nooks and cracks and when my lower back are here. And then that means that I've already thought about myself. So now my tempo is good. So now I can go ahead and train. So I train clients from usually 5:45 to 9 o'clock. And I talk to my UPMC people. I say, hey, I train clients. Is this okay? So I'm actually letting them know, and so they can acknowledge, and they're okay with it. And usually they're like, okay, that's fine, Camille. And I work there from 10 to 5, and then I do my ministry work from 6. So that's the balance. I put a schedule together, and I try to stick with that schedule. I let other people know the schedule, and I don't let people tap into that schedule. And usually they want to do the same thing and figure out how to solve. The first thing you can do with your time is basically thinking about yourself first, putting yourself first. And God, remember, He is going to give you the energy you need, especially when you're telling Him that I'm doing my temple for you, and He will usually direct you where you need to be.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned sugar earlier, and sugar is in everything. So how does one managing their sugar when it's in everything?
It's not in our meats, right? I mean, I know it's in dairy, so lactose, you have to watch your lactose, right? So most of us are lactose intolerant anyway. So anything with an O means that there's a sugar in it. Sucralose is fake sugar. And O-S-E, anything that ends with that means sugar. Okay. So vegetables. Vegetables doesn't have as much sugar. So I always tell people to try and stick to lower than 35 grams of sugar. So my morning starts off with oatmeal. There's not much sugar in there, but carbs does break down into sugar. So when I say sugars, I mean those glucose, straight sugar like the candy, the mints, or anything like that. The fruits, watching limiting the fruits. That's why you should only have 2 servings of fruit, and that should be your only sugar source of the day, and not drinking too much fruit juices, but drinking water instead, so that you can eat the carbs. So rice doesn't have that much sugar. Though it's a carbohydrate, it's called a polysaccharide, right? It has more and it's denser, so that when the body breaks it down, it has to burn calories to break it down into a sugary form. But if we eat straight sugar, what that's going to do, and that can be in a lot of our fruits, watching your glycemic index, that usually can spike your sugar levels, right? Like bananas has a lot of sugar. You're done for the whole day. So don't eat a whole banana, right? Eat half the banana. But I would suggest, as much as you can, put more protein sources in your diet. So that should be the biggest thing in your diet. If you're a vegetarian, you can still have tofu. You could do quinoa, which is less. You could do tempeh, which is also another source if you're doing that. But if you're not vegetarian, it should come from chicken, it should be your salmon, and those have no sugar in it. That should make up the most amount in your diet, diet. Then after that, it's your vegetables. You should be doing spinach, squash, zucchini, those kind of things. Those don't have any sugar in it. And then the next part is make sure you have some good fats, or some avocados that doesn't have any sugar in it. You can do some almonds over peanuts. I tell people to stay away from peanuts. Peanuts actually is because it's grown into the ground, and the way our ground system is now, it actually is more anti-inflammatory. And then most of our producers, they put a lot of sugar in it to give the flavor. So I would tell people to do almond butter, do cashew butter, anything like that. Or if you're able to go to Whole Foods or the co-op and blend your almonds, natural almonds in, so you can get it. But a lot of foods doesn't have that much sugar. It's just the options that we're choosing that has the sugar that you have to watch out for.
Okay. Do you have a online question?
Several.
Oh.
They can't hear me, so we need you to
Repeat it.
repeat the question.
Okay.
All right. Trying to get back to it. There's two people that have their hands raised, and I'll go to them first. All right.
No bread. There you go.
Yeah. Oh. Can I go ahead and ask my question? Oh, someone else.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tuli. I'm calling in from Columbus, and I just wanted to share with Dr. Smith that I'm so encouraged by what she shared. I'm also a health coach, a nutritionist, and personal trainer, and I also own a wellness business where I help women of God adopt mindsets and habits for lifestyle wellness so we could fully walk in purpose. And so I'm just like really encouraged by seeing someone who's doing the exact same thing with the holistic approach. I learned a couple of things with the broccoli, because broccoli does bloat me. So maybe it's how I'm cooking it or overcooking it. So this is very encouraging. I guess my question would be how to connect with you, which I think you'll probably share later, like LinkedIn or social media. But I just wanted to share that this is super encouraging. And yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
I don't actually have the links right now, but I am on Facebook. So if you look up Camille Smith, you'll see a picture, the same picture that's on here. So feel free to friend me. I'm also on Instagram underneath the same name, Camille Smith. I can't remember any of my handles at all.
Okay.
So yeah, the best place you can find me will be Facebook. I'm more engaged on that page, so feel free to send me a message. Also, if you want, my email address is camille.smith@thawinc.org, and that's T as in Tom, H as in hello, A as in apple, W as in woman, I as in igloo, N as in Nancy, and C as in Camille.org. So Camille.Smith, and Camille has 2 L's in there, so the same way spelled on here. Camille.Smith@thawinc.org, and feel free to send me an email if you can't find me there.
Okay, thank you so much. And the other aspect I found informative was the where you were talking about with the financial aspect and financial literacy when you are starting a business, because I am in the early stages too. And when I registered my business, someone, the banker I worked with recommended like, hey, make sure you put some money aside for the taxes. And I'm like, well, I don't even know how much to put aside. So now I know 30%. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Monica Jefferson, how did you find funding for your vision?
How did I find funding for my vision? So if you're talking about the nonprofit organization, so before I had no funding. So the first client that I had, I didn't have to have a business name or anything. This is in my for-profit name. So she gave me money and I built from there. I was still working another job at the time. So I would suggest if you're looking for a for-profit business, definitely continue working so you can bring some capital in and put some money aside and continue investing. You have to be your own investor. If you're not willing to invest in your own vision because you don't have someone to give money, I did not have a family that comes from a lot of money where I can be, Mom, can I get $10,000? No, I worked a 9 to 5, and between my 9 to 5 is when I saw my clients. And when I got to the point of having enough clients that can keep me stable enough, I then stopped my 9 to 5. So for a while in Camille Clarke LLC, I worked on my own for 15 years and had enough income to basically be able to, I was seeing like 13 clients a day. So that was enough income for me to be able to be sustainable. The only reason I went back is because one of my clients is the vice president of UPMC. And she's like, I need you to come work for me. I'm like, I'm looking for a new job.
Yes, there.
So it looks how it worked out. So, but if you're talking about in the nonprofit world, it still is the same thing. You have to invest on your own. Even if you're writing grants, nonprofits,
Okay.
will only be able to, grantees will only give you money if they see that your organization is self-funded, meaning whether it's your board members are willing to put money back in or that you're putting money back in. So right now, I'm blessed to say that we do receive grants every year, $20,000 from employees. It took a while for us to get there. But first, I brought together a board, and the board put their own income in until it was able to get grants on its own. So you have to invest your own money if you're unable to find it. Once people see you're investing your own money, they're willing to give you money. Even if you go to a bank, banks are not going to give you money unless they can see that you're sustainable. So basically, you can't get money until they see that you're spending your own. So I would suggest, if you don't come from a family of money and they're going to loan it to you, is to find a job that you can do and grow your business until the point that you can basically be self-funded. And then after that, you'll get all kinds of grants and loans. Trust me, they're going to give it to you. They're going to beg you to give you money.
Great information. Brother Joseph, you have a question?
A couple.
Well, wait, we're not supposed to go.
He just spoke.
So we got back and forth.
Back and forth? Okay. So first question for me, and then we go back to online? Okay, all right. Never mind, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Now I'm trying to get back to the rest of them. So the other one was talking about some classes in Duquesne University and how they offer these classes. Did you go through any particular classes in order for you to pursue your
Business entrepreneur? I did not take any entrepreneur class, and I think that's probably where my downfall and having a bunch of failures. But my class was real life experience. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to take a class. You've gone through it, and then it's your own lessons learned. That's unfortunate, but that's the harder way, right? So taking a class, but no, I did not take any classes from Duquesne or anything like that, even to write grants. But I did go to school, right? And school does teach you a lot of these a little bit, not in the entrepreneurial world, but you learned a little bit of something, but no direct classes about entrepreneurship. But if that's probably an easier way to do things than the way, but it does cost money to go to school, right? So.
Okay, so Joseph does have a question.
A couple of things. One is about the ending on this. Pitt offers SBAC classes, and they teach you how to do loans. They will help start your business. They give you a whole program in the school of, so they have that. To go back to something you said, first of all, I want to thank you for who you are.
Thank you.
And who else can help make you.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I've recognized, which is frustrating to me, is our male population is having issues. Constantly, with all the research I've been looking at, really nothing out there for the male, especially young males. So that's just a statement, maybe a hint. And there's foods that can help. What do we call them? The superfoods. Right. Because broccoli, for example, helps to be a cancer killer of the cells that just start up. So the part of that is knowing the foods from Jamaica. Come on, you can go get a cactus plant. You literally can take the insides of certain cactus plants to help reduce certain issues that you have in the body. So there's things out there that God's created already. And again, I want to thank you for listening to you on UPMC, your interviews there, and so it's ongoing. So yeah, it's cool.
Okay. I mean, I agree. 80% of any disease out there is cancer, in my opinion. I'm sorry, is nutrition. Having an 80% of weight loss is nutrition, having the proper diet, understanding, but everybody responds to certain things differently, right? And I mean, you mentioned broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, those are cruciferous vegetables, and those are cancer fighters. The omega-3s, those can be cancer, but depending on what chemo you're on, it might be a blood thinner and things like that. So you have to talk to your doctor. But like I said, 80% of our diet, it is, and especially unfortunately the African-American diet that we're used to, because and if we realize where our diet comes from with the ham hock and things like that, it was because we were getting the leftovers of what the slave masters had. We put a lot of salt in our food because we didn't have the opportunity to have it for a long time. So we had to keep it. That diet is not conducive for what we want to do health. And if we continue that, when you fry foods at a high heat, you lose all the nutrition out of it. That's why it's best to bake. And people don't realize, even though you might be eating a salmon, but if you do it well done, you killed all the nutrition value out of it. So you won't be getting the omega-3. So a lot of it is not necessarily just the foods, and some of us are changing, but the way that we cook our foods are very important as well. But yeah, I agree with you, Justin. And thanks for watching me on Health Break.
And I saw your profile on your weight building program.
Oh boy, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Do you consider intermittent fasting as a form of health?
I practice intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting usually means that you're not eating for 16 hours and then you're eating for 8 hours. For women, I would suggest doing 14 hours fast and then eating for 10 hours because of our hormones. And given the way that our world eats today, I do believe in some form of it, because most of us will eat till 10, 12 o'clock at night, then wake up and then eat something as soon as we wake up. But then we don't give our body time to digest and process all that food. So there are some clients that I will put them on an 8-minute fast. But the thing also, once you go on an intermittent fast, you still have to eat healthy. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to eat anything for 16 hours. And they eat all the junk in the middle of that 8 hours, which is not good. I always believe in, going back to our ancestors. They didn't have all these lights and TVs keeping up us all day long, right? So they waited till the sun came out in the morning, and then they hunted for their food, which would give us a 12-hour eating period. And we'd be sleeping. If we're supposed to sleep for 8 hours and we're getting our sleep for 8 hours, that will be a fasting period. If you don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed, that will be 11 hours of no eating. So there you go. You'll be on a 12-12. So it's actually weird. But then intermittent fasting does take it about 4 or 5 hours. And sometimes we do need a flush of our system where we want to not eat, drink a bunch of water. So yes, for some people, but for some people, it doesn't work. Some people, they're going to be eating everything. And then once that 8 hours, they're going to eat more calories than they would have done in the 12-hour span anyway. So it's all dependent.
We have Deborah. What does Camille think about hydration water with essential minerals?
So, if you're not getting any water in, you want to get about, I like to go with 75% of your weight in water, 75 to 80% of your weight, because it usually matters. That's how much water we have in our system, and that's our muscles and everything needs water. So if you're 200 pounds, unfortunately, you need to be drinking 160 ounces of water a day. If you're working out or sweating, you need to be able to drink a little bit more. So hydration is important. For me, processing, a lot of our water is filtered and processed where they're cutting out everything and then they're throwing it back in. Sometimes that's necessary because if you're not getting enough vitamins and minerals, so like this water here says they purified it, which meant that it went through a processing system to get out all the bacteria, and then they added calcium chloride and sodium bicarbonate back in it, right? I don't like processed. So I try to find water that has no like spring water or anything like that where it's coming from. But in today's age, we might need a little bit of filtration because we might be allergic to some of the things coming out of the ground, and then you might have to add in. But if you're talking about like the vitamin water and the hydration water, depending on how much sweat you expel, we sometimes need that electrolytes back in. So I do believe in putting the electrolytes back into the body. So once again, it's dependent. I can't say this for this person. I have to know you for a while, create an assessment, and then if it's causing some kind of issues, I might have to say, you know what, we need to go through some spring water, but not one thing is great for everybody.
Okay, I have a question. So
okay.
What are the recommendations of a water or liquid fluid that you recommend for the electrolytes to replenish in the body? What would be some of the best ones to get?
You want to make sure, to make sure you have magnesium. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of us are magnesium deficient because we eat so much sugar. When you eat sugar, then your magnesium numbers go down, and magnesium helps you with stress. Magnesium, I tell people when I first meet them, if you're telling me they're stressed, I said, we need some magnesium. But there's 20 different forms of magnesium. So just to say magnesium, there's magnesium glycinate, citrate, and all these different things, and they act differently on the body. So once again, knowing a client, I will then tell them what kind of magnesium. The next is, some people stay away from sodium, but it's not necessarily the table salt sodium. So I might recommend Himalaya salt because that also is going to help with hydration. calcium is necessary, but no, most people don't. And these are not necessary electrolytes, but these are just minerals and vitamins. A lot of people don't absorb the calcium unless you have a good amount of vitamin D3. And a lot of people are taking a bunch of calcium, and that's just being pushed through and not getting the vitamin D3. But unfortunately, vitamin D3 is not absorbed unless you have good fats in your system, right? So then once again, I always tell people to pair omega-3 with a vitamin D, but that's your salmon. That's going outside and, to basically see some sunlight. You can get that. So just natural, getting back in nature is pretty much the key. If you eat foods that are not processed, more than likely you're going to get a lot of the benefits for the food. But a lot of us do a lot of processed food. Even I've seen people rice. Their rice has like 7 different ingredients on the back, and it shouldn't have that much ingredients on the back, right? It should, they're enriching it and adding things back into it. And that's a filtration process. And anything that has to be processed, our body doesn't know how to absorb that, and it's going to respond in some kind of way with bloatedness or inflamed water until it learns to digest it, and then, then we burn it off.
So you're telling us that we need to sign up with you, huh?
I mean, I'm not sign up with a nutritionist or a dietitian. Know what you're eating, but I mean, the best thing I can say, try to limit as much processed food as much as possible. Even the juices. Drink more water, but don't drink, like I said, I like to drink pH balanced water. So for a while, only because of dieting for a long time, eating a lot of protein just to compete, I had a lot of acidity in my stomach. So I tend to do like Essentia pH 9 water. And that's the kind of water that I try to drink just because I know I have some GI issues occasionally.
Okay. Any good?
Brown rice is okay?
Brown rice is check on the back that it enriched it and added back, but brown rice is the best rice you can eat over white rice because the white rice has to pull out all the nutrition, everything that to make it right. But brown rice, brown rice is going to give you more fiber. And I try to tell people to go to basmati or jasmine rice if you're going to choose a brown rice. So those 2 are my favorite type of brown rice.
Okay. Yes, sir.
There's an Indian store on Route 22 that offers that brown rice and the like, and they have a lot of good herbs that's used, that could be used.
Turmeric, that's what I was trying to remember earlier. Turmeric is great. You have to put turmeric, helps with hypertension. And you probably see turmeric like about a dozen. Thanks for mentioning that. I probably need to hear Indians, but turmeric, I tell people to season with turmeric as much as you can, or even drink turmeric juice or anything like that.
Right. In fact, I've been in the Middle East for 16 years, so I've learned a lot of that. What America has done was strip the curcumin out of it, and then we're not sure whether or not the curcumin by itself is really nutritional, as opposed to 4 to 6% of the curcumin in a piece of turmeric. So America is doing something again, refining.
Oh, yeah.
But you mentioned about finding a nutritionist. I've seen these nutritionalists. I've gone to a couple. They don't have much sense about food at all. They're given the basic outline that they learned from a doctor who's going with the FDA methods of nutrition and food. And there was one nutritionist I was going to, I led it to the Lord, the fact that told us something. But do you know about bitter gourd? You should know. You don't know bitter gourd? You should look it up. It's a natural insulin. It comes from India, Africa, and India. It's a very, very bitter fruit, and it's used in the Middle East and like to help reduce diabetes. And we don't even know, but you can get it at the Indian store.
At the bitter juice. You said bitter. Spell it.
BITTER. Good.
Oh, bitter good. Bitter good. So anybody bitter good, go look for some bitter good. I didn't know about that.
Or they call it melon.
No.
Also, but
okay.
They have it there. I juice it and drink it.
Okay.
It's hard.
Okay.
It really helps a lot.
Great.
So, I mean, one person that Dr. Colin D. Champ, he actually works at AHN, and he's the one who started the exercise oncology program at AHN. But he has a book called, I just finished reading it, and I think it's great. He talks everything about that, how you either the food pyramid system is flipped the wrong way, like it tells you. And remember, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about America. Things were done for a reason, right? So they told us that we need to put more carbs on our plate and strip the fats up for a while and did all these things. But what we saw increase was diabetes, obesity, and all of that stuff, right? So we need to change, and they came back, and now they're adding fats back in, but good fats and these different things. But I truly believe that protein needs to be a good amount of your diet. Protein and good fats, you need to then put vegetables, and fruits should be limited amount. But Dr. Colin D. Champ, and he calls it medicine. Let me look for it. And but go ahead with the next question while I find the book.
food is medicine and medicine is food?
Not that one. It's called misguided medicine. Misguided medicine. And he's a physician talking about how half the physicians don't even know what we're talking about, and they're recommending these different type of things. And he talks about, you know, this is where the grains and how we're pro-inflammatory and how we need more omega-3s and why we need the omega-3s and stuff of the food that's pushing off phytic acids and different things like that that we don't know about. So if you're looking for a good read on nutrition, I would suggest reading Misguided Medicine by Dr. Colin E. Champ.
Okay.
Chapman?
Champ, C-H-A-M-P. Colin is with one L.
Colin E. Champ.
Yep.
Do you have another question from online?
What's your take on whole food plant-based diet?
I'm all for it. Whole foods, plant, yes, definitely. I mentioned earlier about grains. You know, some of us don't realize, like you go to the store, you see 3 different types of chicken, right? One chicken is not, it's just, they just grew it, they put them in a cage, and you want them to be cage free because, believe it or not, chickens who are caged are going to have anxiety. Their whole macronutrients deficiency is going to change. So when you eat that chicken that's been caged, you're going to take that in, and little do you realize that's changing up your whole body chem. That's why you have to do free-range eggs. You want to do free-range chicken. Unfortunately, you know, and it's because our country was trying to make sure that there was enough food to feed everybody, right? We have a population that's growing, and you know, so they were just trying to make sure they can feed the beast so that the beast will get fatter so we can eat it. And they were trying to make those consumers happy. Most of our consumers want a really good marbled piece of steak, but the unfortunate part, steak needs to be grass-fed. And even when you go to Whole Foods has 5 different types of steak. You need to go, unfortunately, go to the 5th one because that's the one that has been grass-fed its whole entire life. Some of these things, it says grass-fed, but it might be grass-fed 75% of its life, and then it got grains, and grains are omega-6s. So you're eating grains, and your animal's eating grains, where now we're high in grains and don't have any omega-3s. Because for cows to truly, and I have nothing wrong with me eating meat. You see me, I'm eating a big piece of steak all the time. I have steak in my diet every day. My cholesterol levels are great. There's no issues. I went to the doctor the other day. I thought I had a health scare, and my doctor said, "You're the healthiest person I've seen in here. You have no fat on your system." That I can't even read your numbers, but so I have no problem with steak or beef or anything like that. I have been vegetarian, so I know, but any processed, take it out, plant-based, and most people, I don't know what you mean by plant-based, if it just means plant, but plant-based usually sometimes means that your animals are also eating plant. It's not necessary that you have to take it out. There's 2 different range of plant-based. Is those, you can still eat meat, but just make sure the meat is grass-fed.
You know, I am really, really thirsty. My mouth is getting
I know,
dry, but I'm not going to drink the water. After what she said, I'm just going to have to deal with it.
No, speaking about water, drinking Perrier water. Found out that it wasn't in Eastern Co-op and the likes or Whole Foods. Researched it. The company in France and like it was finding out there was a lot of contaminants in the water. And today, I got a text that there's a factory farming. They're finding out that there's this PFAS. It's a contaminant that is in the ground and in the beef and being transmitted to the consumers. And what that is they've been using sludge or your waste from your toilet to process the water. I worked at the water company here, and they found out that they take this sludge and throw it across the farm land. And it's supposed to fertilize the land, but they realize that it's been contaminated. So it's really a sickness in our food system now. So we gotta be careful with it.
That's why you gotta pray over your food. That's what my mama would say, pray over your food, because you don't know what food made it or what's going on. You're hoping it's gonna be nutritional to the body, because the truth, even fish, there was a point that we, the whole fish grow in the water, fish are in the water, but because there's so much antidepressants in our system, like people are taking more antidepressants, we go to the bathroom, it goes into the water, the fish drink that water, they're now antidepressant, we don't realize that we're re-eating that. So we're ecological system, right?
Mhm.
What we put in, what our animals put in, goes right back into the ground or into the water. So it's truly, when you hear environmentalists talking about what we're doing to our world, right, because of some of this stuff. I mean, there's only so much that we can limit, that we can do. But another, if you're looking for any kind of nutrition, supplements or anything like that, another place that I go to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to get, and this is only from a supplement perspective, is consumerlabs.com. They do all the testings and whether or not these supplements have what it has, whether the omega-3s truly have, because in America, marketing is amazing. They make it look pretty, they put it on there, and you think it's going to be great, and you find out it's nothing that what you thought it was. So.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
Me? What about the vegetables and foods that they're growing now indoors with lights and no soil or anything like that?
Hydroponics. I still, I don't know. I always say find a local, do some farm to table kind of stuff, but I don't know much about it. But once again, I do believe, maybe Joseph does, I do believe that our world is trying to do things to try and make sure they're there for us. And if they're finding out what Joseph found, that there's contaminants in the ground, maybe that's the reason they're trying to go from that. But I believe in natural light. There's, I don't know how much, they're probably keeping it at a certain level, but depending on how it gets, it can cause some kind of changes in our food. But I definitely don't do farmed fish or anything like that. Definitely fish is out of the water, even though some of the water is contaminated. So I don't know much about that to really give you anything about it.
I kind of thought they were doing, my thought was that the world is getting overpopulated and they're putting things in food to eliminate people who might be,
That could happen too. You never know. You never know. I never know.
Yes, ma'am.
So you talked a little bit about emotional well-being, right? So as it relates to women in the marketplace in general, can you speak to how you navigate working with males, right? Emotionally in the marketplace.
So I think if I understand, so I do deal with, you mean as in a relationship with a male and dealing with those emotions, or are you just dealing with them as a client?
Process, some of the things you were talking about.
Oh, how do I, okay. So I do have a lot of male clients, on Camille Clarke LLC side. So, dealing with them, they have a lot of stress, right? They're dealing with trying to be the male in a paternal, in this patriarchal society, and that comes with its own emotions, and they're gonna feel some kind, and no offense to anybody who don't agree with it, sometimes a strong woman can be somewhat like, how do I stay on the top and be the top, knowing that this is where society has me, I'm supposed to be making this much money, but then I'm dealing with this woman who's now growing up in society. And then if you're a black male, it's even harder, because now you're dealing with being a black male when you're trying to deal with a white man, and there's a lot of emotions there, so they have their own anxiety. But unfortunately, what I've seen is that trying to be there also, just makes them feel also stressed out, and their body's also having that changes that they're not sure. But one thing that males do, they have more muscle mass than women do, right? They have, but I'm seeing it impact prostate. I've seen a lot of men come up with prostate cancer. And the foods, they still also eat sugar. I have a lot of clients who are males who eat sugar to deal with it, and that's one of the ways that they emotionally eat. So a lot of times, if you're gravitating to sugar or something quick and convenient, that usually tells me that you're stressed out and your life is too overwhelmed, and that way you can't really think about what you're doing anymore, the logic part of that. So one of the things in neuroscience and brain, and if you're dealing with any kind of trauma or any kind of stress, you turn into a reptilian brain where you're only responding. You're no longer thinking logically, okay? Which is why the breathing is important, because then you get out of that reptilian and just respond. And a lot of us respond reptilia-wise because a lot of us are dealing with different traumas and stress, especially in America right now, without the uncertainty. And like I said, there are males out there, white males also, that feel some kind of that their dominance are being taken away as black males are coming up, white males, and then we're becoming so diverse in our country. So that emotion, but how do I deal with that emotion? The same way, physical activity. One of the things I do believe a lot in lifting. I do believe, another book that I would recommend is Dr. Van Hoek. He talks about the body keeps the score. And little do we know that the body does keep the score, and the only way to do that, he said, you could talk therapy all you want, but if you're not doing all the other physical activity part, you're not going to basically be able to not go back to trigger and respond in that way, where your body now emotionally, you're just going to be spurring off all these stress hormones that you don't even know that you're doing because you're back in that situation. So if you want to learn more about emotions and how that, and that's why I really, really believe a lot in physical activity and not just walking and running. Walking is more meditative. I don't like long distance running, even though I used to do marathons, but that's just going to break on your joints. If anything, you should be sprinting, because that's what our ancestors had to do, to sprint away from animals that were trying to eat them. The sprint, doing some sprints. If you can't run, doing the bike ride where you're going for 30 minutes and then slowing it down 30 minutes, or just walking long periods of time. That's meditative. But you got to lift. You got to put some resistance training back in your life. You got to build your muscle mass, or else that your body's going to break down, and then you're not going to have anything to fight that. So for my men, I tell them to go to the weight room.
So one more
Did
question.
that answer the question?
I was actually asking you, how do you navigate that?
Oh, as a woman in a male society, as a woman in a male, oh, wow.
Well, that was powerful.
As a woman, in a male, oh, yeah. Okay. As a personal trainer, especially, mostly men are personal trainers, I just be. I ain't got nothing worrying about what other men got to do. I just be. I'm here to be me. I'm here to be Camille. I can't say that, I do lift, but sometimes my muscles can be intimidating for a certain man, depending on where they are. But I just focus on me and what I need to get done. I don't focus what a man got to say.
Yeah, and that's who she is. Yes, ma'am. In the back, your question.
What's treatment for arthritis and inflammation? There's so many commercials and it's chronic. You don't know where to turn, what to do, and I need help with that.
So, my mom has arthritis, inflammation. Half my clients, I would say, if you don't already have blood pressure issues or taking a blood thinner, omega-3s are great. I mentioned vitamin D and calcium. You need the calcium to get your bones stronger, but unfortunately, you're not absorbing any of the calcium unless you're taking a vitamin D3. So I would suggest taking a vitamin D3, get an omega-3, pair it with your vitamin D3, and then take some calcium. You should need to work out. You're going to build your muscles, right, around the joints to make sure you're not wear and tearing it. A lot of times it's because we don't have as much muscle mass anymore, and a lot of us has lost how to walk. We might be walking and shifting our legs, or one foot turned out to the side, and little do we know our regular activity is causing some of that pain and inflammation and wear and tear. I know a lot of people have carpal tunnel, but I would suggest getting some omega-3s paired with the vitamin D3, not just regular vitamin D, it matters, as well as the calcium. Another thing would be conjoitin and glucosamine. So those two are some great things that I've heard, some great things. Turmeric, which will help the pro-inflammatory, but conjoitin and glucosamine is another product that you can try and test out there. Conjoitin, CHONDRITIN, glucosamine, GLUCOSAMINE.
Okay, one more question here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to know what you think. I know that when you take the vitamin D3, magnesium to go with that. Also, what do you think about K2?
Yes, definitely. Putting K2 in it, you definitely need K2. That's potassium usually. Yep, potassium sparing. A lot of us are pairing those two. Yeah, so yeah. Yep.
And which is the best magnesium? Glycinate or citrate?
I would say glycinate. Depends. If you're first glycinate, depends if you sleep. One of them makes you sleep more. So I don't quote me on this one. I would say go to your doctor and figure it out. Yeah, you just take the citrate. One of them flushes right through our system and you don't absorb it, but I can't remember it right now. So it was something where I'm looking at my notes and be like, okay, that's one. So, yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so that is it for our questions segment, and we're getting ready to close up. But what are some of the key takeaways that you want to give to the audience, those here and those online that are live? What are some of the key takeaways that you want to share?
Take some time to do some meditation and listen to yourself. A lot of times we are our best own resource, but most of us don't take time to know how our body feels at that point in time, and that just means not doing anything and being still, and put that as first. Next, remember that God is the way. And he will also talk to you and send people in your life. He's not going to speak to you directly, but he might speak to a person who will touch you. And the only way you're going to be able to see that is if you first take time to think, to meditate and listen to others. Eat natural food. Eat as much as you can. If it wasn't here 10 years, for our ancestors' years, then don't even worry about it. If it's not something you can kill, that you can get out of the ground, that can be, don't even eat it. If it's something that went through 10 different processing, I would tell people to look at the back of your ingredients. If it has more than 3 ingredients, don't even touch it, put it out. So, and I know that means that you have to do more work, right? That means you're gonna have to cook. That means you're gonna have to do different things, but maybe you find a friend who's willing to cook for you, and you could pay her $100 or something, and she could take care of everything for you. There's a lot of things that's out there, but I would say stay away from unprocessed foods. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
pray, and then pray over your food just in case you don't know where it's from. Pray.
So let's thank Dr. Smith, and I really appreciate you being here. It's been so great to reconnect with you, and hearing your story and just feeling, I'm feeling your passion, for people and the passion for what you do, and especially giving it back in order to God, and those things that you shared with us, and your outlook on life is so inspiring and encouraging. I just want to thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. Now,